Hello and welcome to yesterday's Airlines. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the November Aeroclassics releases which have just arrived at the yesterday's Airlines hangar. Now this is probably the last Aeroclassics that I'll ever get delivered to New Zealand because I'll be moving reasonably soon, hopefully, and the postage is not going to get there. So hopefully December's announcement isn't as exciting as November's, because November, as you can see, had some really good models, which meant that I acquired 5. Which is probably more than I was hoping I'd have to acquire because, as everyone has no doubt noticed, the cost of the models is going up and the postage costs are getting very silly, especially when you live at the bottom of the world as I do presently. But anyway, I found a way around that to a degree, and the models have just arrived in decent time, and as you can see there are some really interesting models in the box. So starting at the top, we've got the Indian Airlines Caravelle. Beneath that, we've got a Varig DC-6, then the Bulgarian Tu-154, the Romanian 707, and at the bottom, the Air Zimbabwe 767. So I haven't got any of these out of the boxes yet, so I don't know how good or bad they are. Hopefully they all arrived in one piece. But let's get straight on, have a look at this haul of Aeroclassics from the November releases. As I said, it was a really good month. Could have easily got several others, like the Minerve DC-10, but managed to avoid that and settle for the 5. So let's have a quick look at each of those. Okay, so I'm going to start out with the Indian Airlines Caravelle VT-DVJ. As you can see, it comes in the standard Caravelle box that Aeroclassics uses. Aeroclassics has the one Caravelle mold and tends to reuse it for different Caravelles at times, which is kind of forgivable. In this case, they don't have a problem though, because this is a standard Caravelle that fits the mold. So, Indian Airlines is a Caravelle that has been missing for some time, and one that I think that people have been really wanting. I know a lot of Indian collectors are out there and really interested in Indian models, so they'll be really happy to see this release. And we've been getting a few Indian Airlines from Aeroclassics in recent times. We've got the 737-200 and was it HS748, I think. So there have been a few, and the Indian Caravelle looks particularly special because it has this big black mask on the nose, which always gives it an interesting look. And I haven't looked or compared these models to photographs, so this is no review in any sense, but you can see the models arrived in one piece. You can also see straight away that the orange colour is quite dark, which is fairly standard for Aeroclassics, probably a little too dark. And actually, also, the nose on this one looks a little pointy. That's what that's about. See if we can get that focus. But I think the Caravelle mould has always had a slightly strange nose, but they rarely get the windows completely correct on their Caravelles anyway, Aeroclassics. But generally, I think this is looking pretty good, and it is all in one piece and no major print issues that I can see. So that's looking nice. I think that'll go quite nicely with my 737 and the A300 that I've got. And as always, nobody else is going to be making a Caravelle in 400 scale anytime soon. So it's kind of take it or leave it in terms of getting these models from Aeroclassics, because nobody else is going to be making them. I think that I'd probably be an old man before anyone else goes anywhere near producing a Caravelle in this scale. Model number 2 to look at in the unboxing here is the Varig DC-6B PPYSM. Varig models and South American models in general tend to sell out very quickly and become very hard to find for Aeroclassics. So when AC releases these, you really have to snap them up at the time or spend a long time looking for them. And just like with the Caravelles, Aeroclassics is the only person or the only manufacturer producing prop liners at all regularly, and I really like the AC DC-6 and DC-7 rolls. I think they're spectacular. Some of the best piston liners that we've ever got in this scale, and You can see that this model is looking lovely. Once again, no QC issues that I can see straight off the top of the bat, and AC has done a good job seemingly on the colours of the model here, which are looking nice, and some really good detailing. However, once again, I have to say, I'm not sure about this nose shape here. It looks a bit squared off there, doesn't it? I'm not sure what's going on sometimes with the AC molds. They just don't seem necessarily always to be properly put together, but it doesn't have a dramatic impact on the model, and elsewhere it's looking very nice with a really nice silver bottom here. So I think, again, looking good, and Varig is a scheme which Aeroclassics has done many times. You'd like to think that they wouldn't make a mess of producing the livery. Let's put her up on the box here. There we go. See, actually the nose doesn't look too bad from that side, but from the other side it does look a little bit asymmetric. I already have the Lockheed Super Constellation by Aeroclassics, which was made many moons ago, and so this one will pair nicely with that. And Varig were much more a Douglas customer than they ever were a Constellation customer. Anyway, obviously they did rather enjoy the Electra for a long time. But again, I think you know, no one else is going to be making these kind of piston prop liners. It's the sort of thing that I love AC for, and this is a nice addition to the collection once again. Model number 3 in the purchases this month is LZBTN, a Balkan Bulgarian Tu-154, wearing the 1980s colours. And Bulgaria has been a nation which has been heavily underrepresented in 400 scale. There are very few releases. I've got the other Bulgarian Tu-154 in the 90s scheme. I'm not sure there's been any other models that have come to mind for Bulgaria in 400 scale, and certainly seeing as it's a major country in Europe and a major flag carrier, it would be nice to see at least some more Balkan Bulgarian. I'd like to see some Varna International as well. But many of these Slavic nations down in the Balkans there are not very well represented, and Bulgaria is not alone in that. The model comes in this rather bland AC box, which you wouldn't know what model it was if it didn't have the sticker on. Thank God they put stickers on, at least nowadays. I've got a whole collection of older Aeroclassics models which don't have any identification on them other than the identification I put on. And as someone who's just had to pack up thousands of them, it's a bit of a pain at times to find out which model belongs where. But anyway, that's very much a side issue. Once again, I'm glad to see that the model has arrived without any damage, which is especially good because the nose gear of these 154s is quite long and quite prone to damage. I think this model is looking actually really impressive. This scheme really suits the 154, and even though it's not the the newest or most amazing mold by Aeroclassics, it looks excellent in the scheme. And I think this of the models that I've seen so far, the ones that we've got out, this one's looking like my favourite. It's looking really nice. If we bring it up close to the camera, we get the camera to focus. You can see AC has actually done some really good print work here. It's really crisp, really bright, and some good detail. Now, I haven't done a proper full review on this, obviously, but the scheme is looking good. Yeah, the joint line isn't spectacular here, but it's an old mould. Otherwise, I'm liking this. This is looking really nice. I mean, it's a model which I'm really keen to get. I think I probably saw these Bulgarian Tu-154s in this scheme at Heathrow when I was a boy in the late 80s. So it's really nice to be able to get models that I've seen. And if we put this up on the box, then this model's looking really very good. Really very good. Not all the 154s has been a triumph that they've done recently, but this one is really nice. Well done, Aeroclassics. I'm liking this guy a lot. Okay, so that's model number 3 for me, and despite as I said, the mold not being the best Tu-154 that could ever exist, and there has been some rumours that NG might produce one, I doubt that Balkan Bulgarian will be high on the list, and this is a model which is going to fit beautifully in my Eastern Bloc fleet. So really good model. Okay, staying in the Balkan region and in the old Eastern Bloc, we've got this Tarom, the 707-320 YRABA. Tarom were one of the few of the Eastern Bloc countries that was able to operate Western aircraft because of Ceausescu, their dictator. He managed to garner relationships both East and West. And this model appears to be one which people are especially excited by. I have to say, of the 5 that I've got here, this is probably the one, number 5, so it wasn't the one that was most exciting me, but I've already got several Tarom aircraft. I think I've got a BAC-111, and so it wasn't necessarily top of my list, and nonetheless, I do like the 707 mold a lot, but I can see already this one's got a bit of a problem, isn't it? The tail has been whacked, so there's a bit of damage there on the tail. Now, I've tried to straighten these tails on the 707s in the past and had some pretty disastrous results. I don't fancy breaking this on camera, so I might leave this until I get back to the UK and can try and fix up that tail. That's not awesome. Yeah, I get a feeling if I try and bend that back, it's likely to break. Anyway, for the time being, I'll leave it. Let's have a look at the rest of the model, which is looking nice. As I say, the 707 is, I think, one of their best molds, and it's hard to have too many 707s in your fleet. And Tarom has this classic cheat line scheme, which looks really nice. And if you bring her up, you can see it's a really good 707 mold, this. There we go, finally got the camera focus. And once again, it looks like the nose is a little bit, I don't know, it's not quite awesome, is it? There's a little bit maybe extra paint and things going on around here, which make that not crisp as it might be. In fact, if I just, touching that, if I just knocked a piece off. Not the best quality of this model, I have to say. Maybe that's because it got some damage in the box, though. It did come a long way, all the way from Canada. But let's have a look across the rest of the scheme here. It's looking nice finish, really nice belly, and nicely finished on the cheat line as well. It's just a shame about that tail. That's going to piss me off. Pardon my French. Okay, I'll have to look at trying to resolve that. These break, you know, it's not unheard of certainly for them to get some pressure, the 707 tails. But I can see here, there's going to be a bit of a pain to try and resolve. I will try and do something about that. But otherwise, the model's looking good. Another nice addition. And if we slip her up onto the box. Yeah, aside from that, and yeah, a little bit of roughage at the nose cone, this is looking good. Okay, drum roll please. I'm hoping I've saved the best till last, because of the 5 models here, this is probably the one which is the most important to me. I used to go to Gatwick a lot as a child, go up onto the roof terrace, and Air Zimbabwe was there pretty much every single time that I'd go up, and it was their 707s were in this scheme, which we've already got a version of, but the 767s were perhaps the ones which most encapsulate Air Zimbabwe for that time for me, and they had to pair ZWP-E and ZWP-F, and one of the two was often there in the 90s when I was up there as a kid on the roof terrace. So I'm really looking forward to this model, and it's one that I've wanted for a long time, and I'm really pleased that AC has released it. So let's hopefully it's in good nick. Okay. Let's have a look. My first impressions are good, but not spectacular, I have to say. Let's have a look. Now, the most obvious thing that I can see straight away with some of these 767s that AC does is that they just struggle a bit with the white. I'm not sure what's going on here, this line. This isn't the first 767 that's had this odd line across here. It's not the end of the world, but it's not spectacularly good either. And you can also see here that they can't align the bloody stripes on the tail. How hard is that? I don't know. It's not great, but it's such a beautiful scheme that it doesn't necessarily have a dramatic impact on the model. And if we bring her up, we can see that the rest of the scheme's looking quite nice. I like the 767 model. I know people have issues with the size of the nose gear, and I agree it's not as good as it might be. It's perhaps could be a bit smaller and taller, and also the main gear doors aren't the right shape either, and the engines are a bit of an ordinary shape too, but otherwise I kind of like it. It doesn't sound like I'm criticising it too much. It's a perfectly ordinary mould. It's probably a 7 or so. It's not the best mould in the world, but it's not a bad mould either. And AC is the only company that's going to be producing the sort of range of models that I'm interested in using it, such as this Air Zimbabwe 767. I know that JC and Gemini have got a 767-200. Are they ever going to produce an Air Zimbabwe 767? Of course they're not. So once again, you know, it's a really excellent choice of subject matter by Aeroclassics, and the model's looking pretty good. It's not quite as nice. That line across the front there is not quite what I would like, but overall the model is looking good, and I'm liking this scheme a lot, and it does suit the 767 well. Now, I got the Braathens Safe version last month of the 767, and the sheet line and window line was a little bit low. And is that the case on this model? I need to check the photos. It's not upsetting me if it is, but it might be a little bit low once again. So overall, I think that it's good but not great in terms of, you know, the representation of it. The mold is pretty decent. There are some issues around. I might do a review of this model because it's one I'd be really looking forward to, but we'll see. I might do the 154 as well, who knows. I have to see how much time I have. But overall, so we've got our 5 models here. One has a little bit of damage, which isn't unheard of considering the distance they're coming. The other 4 are all in good nick. So let's have a look at all of them together. Okay, so here are all 5 of November's Aeroclassics purchases all lined up together. It's an awesome selection of liveries that AC has chosen for this month, and on some decent base molds as well. I have to say that, you know, as is not unusual with AC, the finishing is not always the best. Obviously the Tarom's got a couple of issues there. Zimbabwe itself has got a bit of a print finish issue there. But overall, it's a good bunch of models. And I think if I had to pick my favourite or the best of these, then it clearly is the Bulgarian 154, which is a really nice model. I think that it's a cool scheme, really classic looking scheme, fits the Tu-154 well. And as far as I can tell, without having checked against the reference photos, can't see any issues with it at all. The others have got a few issues. I mean, the nose shape on the Caravelle here, I'm not sure my other Caravelles are that pointy. I can't remember, to be honest. I need to have a look. There's also a bit of a strange shape on the nose of that Varig DC6, but otherwise those both looking really nice. And then of course the aforementioned Zimbabwe and Taroms. So overall, it's a good package of AC models. It's a shame though that AC just can't quite push up to the top level with some of these. Not being able to do things like get the lines straight from the tail to the fuselage is just, well, it's crap really, isn't it? Let's not go there. I mean, it's not good. It's the sort of thing, considering the cost, that they should be doing better on. And at the end of the day, it just comes down to the factory. But this is kind of what you're getting with Aeroclassics typically. Really excellent choices, good base molds, sometimes some questionable finishing here and there. Still, nonetheless, I think I'm pretty happy with these 5. They're going to go well with the rest of my collection, and it'll be interesting to see what December brings. So thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed your Aeroclassics models that arrived in November as well. Drop me a comment if you did, or if you didn't. Interesting to see what you think. As always, check out my website, yesterdaysairlines.com. Follow me on Instagram at @YesterdayAirlines, and at Facebook, @YesterdayAirlines as well. And check out my next video next time round. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I'll see you later.